Well, I want to introduce Benjamin Snow. He's the deputy.
You can elevate me and give me whatever title you want. Just go for it. Yeah. I'll just channel whatever title you give me. I'll try to channel that persona. How about that?
Deputy Director for Economic Development here in Mesa. We had one of these orange sofas a couple years ago. It was right before I got here. And as I came in, everybody just talked about how encouraging it was, how everybody was really engaged with it. So we wanted to bring it back, worked with Vice Mayor Summers to bring this topic back. So thank you all for being here tonight. And I will turn it over to Mr. Snow.
Great, thank you so much. Well, thanks for having me. Get all the clapping out because you're going to start booing here in a couple of minutes. Just get that all out of your system now. No, it's my honor and privilege to come and speak to you tonight. I love getting out in the community, talking to the members of the community and sharing a little about what we do in economic development. I've been doing this kind of work for 22 years, and I just love it. It's a kind of a holistic view of an economy, the holistic view of a community, and it's just, I don't think it's ever going to leave me. You know, that sort of thinking about how you grow the economy and how do you build different parts of a community and try to do it in a way that citizens like, and they're not showing up with torches and pitchforks at city council meetings and all of that stuff. And it's actually a fun place to be. So I'm relatively new here in Mesa. I've been here for only 6 months. So if you see me fumbling the football up here, please forgive me. And then we have our vice mayor he's said, maybe I'll heckle you for half of this presentation, and then for the other half, I'll wink and kind of give you some moral support. So thank you. And if there's any difficult or politically tricky questions, he's your man. He's your man. He'll be able to handle all of those. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to look into your eyes throughout this next 20 to 30 minutes of presenting things. And if I see glassy eyes and you're bored to tears, I'm just going to advance to the end and just open it up for questions and have a fireside chat, because that's what I like about these kinds of opportunities for people, whatever's on your mind. So I have some things that I think would be interesting that I'm going to share with you. But again, I'll be looking at your eyes, and if you look like you're checking out, so will I. We'll just forward to the end and just have some Q&A and stuff like that. So what I thought I'd do, we're going to have the bulk of what I share will be relevant geographically to you folks, because it's kind of heavy on Southeast Mesa, and we call that the gateway area. But it's big. It's bigger than just Eastmark. It's the vice mayor's district, where there's about 100,000 people that live within the district, and so we'll focus on that. But before we do that, I thought I would kind of frame out what we do as an economic development office and help you get a perspective kind of citywide. There's a lot of us living in Mesa. There's almost 525,000 of us. And so Eastmark population right now is about 20,000 people. Throw Cadence in there, that's another 7,000. You throw in all of the residentials all the way over to the city boundary that butts up against Apache Junction, you add another 16,000. So it's nothing to sneeze at. This is a really important part of our city, and it's important that the citizens down here stay engaged with what we're doing with economic development. And hopefully when I'm done tonight, you'll feel encouraged that you'll see what we're trying to do is bring a good balance between housing and jobs. That's, I guess, kind of the punchline of the whole thing, is that's what we're trying to do. And sometimes there's an ebb and a flow, because sometimes you need the housing units before you can get some of the retail and some of the amenities to come in, because that's what they're looking for. But we really feel like it's important to have high-wage, high-quality jobs that are also close to the residents within the city. So I'll just start out here by saying that our vision as an office is our work is anchored in quality. We want to see quality developments come into our city, and that includes quality employers. It includes quality development. So we work really closely with the development services department, the planning department, and we work really well with them to make sure that developers come in and they know we have a higher expectation of what kinds of stuff they ought to be building in our city. And so that works really, really well. And we just want to have a diverse and sustainable economy. So that just means we focus on industries where we get a good balance. We don't get so heavy in one particular industry that if something goes sideways in the economy within that industry, then we're kind of in trouble. We don't like that scenario. And so what we want to do is make sure we've got good partnerships with the industry and that they feel good about their government wherever they're deciding to locate their facilities. So our mission includes several key goals here. You can see them up here. I'm not going to read these, but and I mentioned some of these already. But just remember that we want to advance business. We want to grow quality jobs. So I'm going to skip here. This is some metrics that just kind of show where kind of Mesa's position on the national stage. And as I said, we've got a really big population. Over 500,000 people live here, and that puts us in pretty good company. In fact, it ranks us 37th in the country for cities. And a lot of times when people think of a city like Miami, Minneapolis, Kansas City, we're bigger than those cities, because people are mostly thinking like the metro around them, but the actual cities of these first-tier cities. So what does that mean? It means Mesa, Arizona is a first-tier national city. And so that's the vibe that we want to project to the rest of the world, so that we're bona fide, we're legit, we got what they need here, and that's how we act. And that's the kind of message we send. This makes us the second largest city in the greater Phoenix area, and the third largest in the state, because Tucson sneaks in there, position 2 when you look at it from a statewide. Another thing that we think is really important, and I'll kind of come back to this theme throughout our talk tonight, and that is there's 1.5 million people that live within 30 minutes of downtown Mesa that are part of our labor pool. So that's really important. When we're talking to companies, they will invariably ask, where am I going to get good people to come and work for the company? And that's a nice story for us to be able to tell. So I'm one of 2 deputy directors for our department. So we've got a director and there's 2 deputies. And we kind of break our work up into 2 halves, if you think of it that way. And my area that I focus on is the business attraction and retention, and also workforce development, talent attraction. And we're also doing things to promote Mesa to retailers, to get more quality retailers to come in. And that's something that I get to work on with my role. And then we have other folks in our office who are more focused on entrepreneurship, small business development. I'll talk about some specialty spaces that we manage in downtown. And also, we have a lot of redevelopment opportunities, because not all of Mesa is brand new, like Eastmark, and so we care about some of those older parts of the city as well. And we think some of these sites are really well positioned for redevelopment, and some really cool things can happen there. And then, of course, we have marketing and a pretty smart couple of people that work on data and analytics to make sure that we're letting the data lead us as to which rocks we should be looking under, and which industries we should be focusing on. So these, I want to talk a little bit about projects and some of the successes that we've had over the last couple of years. We have dozens of projects at any given time that we're working on, and we work really closely with the state. The Arizona Commerce Authority is what they're known as. And we also work real closely with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. That's the regional group, and a lot of the cities are members of that, and the county's a member of that. And the reason we do that is because strategically it makes a lot of sense, because if somebody's looking to locate somewhere, sometimes they'll narrow it down to a state first, and they don't know where within a state they want to come, or they'll narrow it down to 3 or 4 states. That's where the ACA comes in to help, showcase what Arizona has to offer. And then the Greater Phoenix story is there's 5.5 million people in Phoenix, which makes Phoenix like number 5 in the country in terms of metro areas. And that gets a lot of attention for some of the reasons that I've already mentioned. And it's just really important that we're aligned with the state and the region, because that even though our loyalties are here in Mesa, what we can do for Mesa, we see the wisdom in partnering with these other groups. And so some of these industries here are the ones that we've been focusing on for the last few years. And most of these, the one common denominator for most of them, not the tourism, hospitality, retail, not so much the higher wages, but all the rest of those above that are generally industries that pay higher wages. And so our goal is to always improve our batting average. So if our average is $64,000 average wage, that just means we care about businesses that are paying people more than $64,000, and we'll tend to work a little more for those types of companies than the ones who come in who are paying lower that. The tourism, hospitality, retail is also important, because that helps us in develop a quality of place. Because if we want to attract talent to come to Mesa, we have to have those sorts of amenities here. Otherwise, they'll go to other markets that have those kinds of things. So it's fairly holistic. So this is just a quick little chart of some of the successes we've had the last fiscal year. So we operate July 1st through June 30th. That's the fiscal year that the city operates on. So we tend to align all of our things according to those time intervals. And we had a tremendous success this past year with new projects that landed here, total number of jobs. You can see those. The average wages is higher, to my point earlier, than it was last year. That's a really important metric for us to keep track of and score every year. And then capital expenditures, the capital investment was huge this past year. And then nearly 5 million square feet got absorbed, which is something. If you have, yes,
that's an extraordinary, either underestimation or overachievement. Can you speak to what led to that?
The capital expenditures, in 2 words, the data center.
Okay.
The capital investment on the data center machine is pretty high ticket, high value items that go in not only to constructing the data center, but then all of the equipment and stuff that goes inside of those. So that's, you'll see it come down a little bit more. We're not really focusing very heavily on data centers. I've described it to many people as if we were playing bingo, we've got our bingo card filled out. And I'll show you a map here in a minute where you can see it's a veritable who's who of tech companies who have a Mesa address, and we're proud of that. I think it's kind of cool. We got Google, Apple, and Meta, and we've got a whole host of others. But we've done our fair share to support the data center industry. We all love our tech and our devices, and we all use it every day. So it's an important piece of infrastructure that we as a society need, but it's okay to share that load. And it's okay for Pinal County and for Glendale and for others. And so some of those other cities are stepping up to the plate, which we're grateful for, because we see there's not a high number of jobs that come with those data centers. And so I'll talk about that a little bit later too. Great question though, appreciate that. I just want to talk real quickly on retail, because not every economic development office focuses on retail. A lot of offices just focus on what we would call as the primary or basic jobs, which are office and industrial, generally that kind of employment, not the hospitality, not entertainment, not retail. But we do, and I'm glad we do, because it helps us to lean into a more holistic approach to doing economic development and understanding that if you want to attract talent, you want to attract people, families, to come into your community, you have to have that softer side of the economy, even though the wages might not be that high. So it's kind of a balanced approach to that. I've already talked a little bit about redevelopment. I just want to give a plug and have you raise your hands. Have you been to Mesa's Asian District? It's okay. I'm not going to shame you if you don't. But for all the people whose hands aren't up, go check it out. It's really cool. It's really unique. We get visitors that come from all over the state, even from out of state, if they're traveling or tourists and stuff, and they find out there's this Mesa Asian District, and you go, it's just like taking a trip around the world, at least the Pacific Rim, because you go into those places, and it is really, really cool, and we're proud of that we have that. We just did some new branding around the Asian District. That the tangram, which is really popular in Asia, is what we chose for the design style. So as you go to the Asian District, it's on Dobson, around Main Street, Broadway, that vicinity. You'll see there's about a mile's worth of really cool Asian types of retailers and restaurants. And so, okay, those you didn't have your hands up. The rest of you now raise your hand. Okay, you're going to repeat after me. You're going to swear an oath. No, I'm just kidding. But you really should. You really should do it. We've been over there several times, our family, not since we came back to Arizona, and we just think it's the coolest thing.
On the topic of retail,
yes.
we compete with retail hubs like Santan and Gilbert, Santan Village and Gilbert.
Can I put a pin in the question? Because we have some really epic things that are coming right out of the ground right now and over the next few years. How we compete is we continue getting the rooftops with good disposable incomes, which Eastmark is killing it in that way. It's awesome. We just need a little bit more of that. So when we talk to retail and hospitality and people, so the Santan and the Queen Creek, the reason they've done so well is because the average disposable income is really high in those areas, and we're getting there. Mesa will have our time in the sun for this. Just stick with us. Be patient. It's coming, and I'll highlight a couple of those projects. But that's how we compete. You got to get the rooftops, and you got to get high disposable incomes or a critical mass of density of more people, and then the retailers will start to take a closer look at us. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so in terms of rooftops, is that a question of age? Like, is Gilbert an older city than Mesa? Is that why there are more rooftops there?
No. So how can I say this that's respectful of our friends in Gilbert? I'll say it like this. Gilbert is awesome. Gilbert's awesome. They've done some really cool things with their downtown. They've got some really cool, master plan communities around the neighborhoods. And it's just been a focus for Gilbert. And I've worked in communities like Gilbert, and I haven't worked in Gilbert, but I've been in communities that are like Gilbert in that sometimes they're content to be just a really awesome bedroom community. And people leave and they go work in other places and maybe not so heavily focused on employment centers because maybe they think industrial buildings are not pretty, things like that. And I don't want to cast any aspersions on Gilbert because I got friends in Gilbert. I have 2 siblings that live in Gilbert. It's a great town. But I think that's probably why, is that there's just really this focus on these master plan communities that drew this high average household incomes, and then you see the retail that kind of spawned from that. So, any other questions on that? All right, what other cities can I bust the chops of? Come on, bring it on. No, we love Gilbert. We really work well as an East Valley economy. There's 1.5 million people that live out here. To the point earlier about the state and the region, the same principle applies if we get together and marshal our resources. So it behooves us to be really good friends with Tempe and Chandler and Gilbert, and we are. And Queen Creek and who?
And Scottsdale.
Sure. Yeah?
Benjamin, as a fellow Sun Devil, I'd love to hear you talk about Tucson.
Why? Why are you doing this to me?
That next slide of yours is really
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Thanks for getting us back on track, Vice Mayor. We appreciate that. I won't spend a lot of time on this other than this is a really important value for us as an office. I am honored to work on this program, which is business retention and expansion. And if you just boil it down, what does that mean? We got 14,000 businesses throughout Mesa of all sizes, from sole proprietorships up to massive, thousands of employees. And we care about the relationship we as a city have with our businesses. And we try to reach as many of them as we can. We're not going to reach all 14,000, but we do a lot of programs for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and we try to sort of rotate through some of our top employers. It doesn't mean top employers by size, but kind of what industries they're in that we want to feel plugged into. And we just want them to feel the love and feel the support. And so if they're thinking about expanding, they might want to hire another 50 people. We want them to consider them where they are first and make sure we've got that. I kind of equate it to if we're recruiting to bring new businesses in, that's kind of like a sales function. And then if we're taking care of the businesses who are already here, that's a customer service function. And it's really important for our office. And so I get just as juiced about taking care of our own companies as I do recruiting new companies to come here. And honestly, if we're treating our own companies really well, they have a great story to tell to the new companies that we're trying to lure to come here, because then we just say, hey, ask some of your colleagues in your industry how they're treated in our city. And then that's much more credible than me, the economic development guy, telling them that thing. And then just a quick minute on small business and entrepreneurship is we do care about our small business and entrepreneurs. And when I talk about downtown Mesa in just a few minutes, I'll dive into some specialty spaces we have that are geared specifically to make sure that we're taking good care of our small businesses. Workforce, I've already talked about that. So let's talk about this. Employment corridors. Before I show you the map, I'll reiterate something I said at the outset of this. Every community who wants to be balanced and who looks at themselves holistically, I'm giving you a little bit of my opinion here, but I've seen it work really well. You try to seek parity between the jobs in your community and the residents, the population. So you think of it as a daytime population for the workers and a nighttime population for where everyone's sleeping at night. And you want to create as much parity between those two numbers as you can. Why? Because it makes for a little bit more happy, convenient life. If you only have to travel 5 or 10 minutes to get to work, for one thing, take all that load off of the traffic and freeways. But beyond that, I think the economy of cities who have that parity performs better, because now you've got the full mix of things going on in the community. And then sort of the cherry on top of the sundae is when you can bring in the right kinds of retail and the right kinds of entertainment into your community, because now people not just live and work there, but now they can shop and play and have their whole joy of their life right in the community where they live. So that being said, here's a map of Mesa. You can see shaded in gray there. And we have 5 areas of our city that are particularly higher than normal concentrations of employment. So we would call these employment corridors or employment centers. And you can see there's 5 of them there. Falcon, Gateway, which we'll go into a little more detail tonight, Fiesta, Downtown, which we'll go into a little bit more detail tonight, and Riverview. So I don't have time to go into all 5 of these. I'd love to come back sometime if you're interested in the others, but we're just going to focus on the Downtown and the Gateway area for the time that we're allotted tonight. And so with that being said, let's jump into Downtown Mesa. How many of you feel connected to Downtown Mesa? I know that's kind of a nebulous definition. How so?
We do a lot of things at the Art Center.
Okay, the MAC?
Yeah, we've been subscribers to that area. Also, we've found ourselves going up to those restaurants in that area more often. I have a former employee who opened a business in downtown Mesa. So we've been, and I'm also doing Mesa Leadership, which is doing a lot of things in that downtown Mesa area. So just being introduced to even some of the newer things down there. Good
for you. Thank you for that. I think we have a lot of promise. There's already a lot of cool things downtown I'll go into in just a second. But go downtown. Connect yourself with it. It's only, 25 minutes from here? And you'll check out some of the stuff there is to do. Because we're always working on ways to improve the downtown. And there's certainly areas that need a little bit of polish on the apple. There's places that need some redevelopment. There's some really cool projects that are coming. If you track into any of our city council meetings, you can see some of these things that are happening. And it's very heartwarming to me when I see our elected officials excited about that. It's just seeing some of those things happen in our downtown, so that it's not a neglected part of our community. So we look at the downtown area where City Hall is and where the ASU Mix Center is, for those of you who are familiar with the geography and those few blocks around there, as really it's the makings of an arts and innovation district between the MAC and some of the other performance and theater venues down there. And then in the innovation part of it is you have the Mix Center, but you also have the Mesa Business Builder at the studios, which is a specialty space that's owned by the City of Mesa, and the programming comes from our office, and we're delighted because we get to help small businesses get free resources to help them grow and expand and network. And so there's events. You can get hooked up with the Mesa Business Builder, and you can get on a mailing list, and you can get involved with that. If you or anyone you know is thinking of starting a small business, or you already have one, and it's in your garage, and you want to sort of upscale and move it out, you really should avail yourself to these opportunities that Mesa provides, and it's free. That's the cool part about it. So between the Mesa Art Center, the Mix Center, those are kind of 2 anchors. And I don't have time to go into the details, but there are plans for a lot more to happen, both with ASU in the downtown, as well as some new residential development projects that are coming into the downtown. And in time we'll see some renovation work on the convention center, and it's coming. It's we care about it, and I think it's important that the community understands that. Now, 2 of the specialty spaces we have, I talked about Mesa Business Builder at the studios, and there's another one called Launch Point, and that's Mesa's technology incubator. So at very low cost to the company, they get, because again, it's a city-owned asset, so we can really reduce the rents for them, and then they stay in there for 2 or 3 years, get legs, proof of concept, there's some lab space, office space, and then they can spin out of that, and then ideally they would take market rent space somewhere else in the community. And then on the middle floor of the Mesa Business Builder is another ASU program called the Orrin Edson Entrepreneurship and Innovation, E&I, they call it, Institute. So there's a lot of synergies there with all of that stuff happening within a couple of blocks. Okay, this is the last downtown slide, and then we'll jump into Southeast Mesa. I don't have time to go into all of this. You can recognize some of these logos here. Somebody has mentioned the MAC. If you haven't been to the Neon Sign Garden, go check that out. A really cool thing the city did to preserve the history of some of these old cool, neon signs that are several decades old that somebody put in storage, and now we brought them out and put them into this thing we call the Neon Garden. The Post is an old former post office that's now being repurposed as an events venue. And then all these other things, you can see the logos, the Idea Museum, Natural History Museum. And so when you get your friends and family and people coming into town, you can certainly avail yourselves of anything within your orbit, but I would love for you to consider downtown Mesa and support the businesses that are down there. Okay, I'm going to pause here and see if there are any questions on anything I've talked about so far before we dive into your backyard. We good? Okay. Well, then here we go. All right, here's the map. This is Southeast Mesa. You can see the Gateway Airport down there. We will sometimes call this the Gateway area of the city. Certainly bigger than just Gateway, but you all know where you live. If you've ever spent any time on Google Earth and looked at the neighborhood and seen what's going on around you in your neighborhood. And bounded on our west, you have Gilbert. To the south, we have Queen Creek in yellow, and we have Apache Junction in red, just to make sure everybody knows this is where we're situated. And there's going to be further growth that's going to continue out in AJ. And there's already talk of some master plan communities that are going to come out there. That bodes really well for Mesa. You know why? Because guess where the retailers are going to want to locate? They're going to want to locate in Mesa because we're going to become the new center of gravity for all that residential activity that's happening around there. And then we have a lot of jobs, the people that are working in Southeast Mesa, and that also bodes well for retail because then people on the way home from work, they can grab stuff. So it's coming, and we'll get into that in a couple of slides here later. Let's see. Okay, so this is the Mesa Gateway area just at a glance. The average the median household incomes are pretty good, 90,000, really strong. So retailers like that number. Highly educated, nearly 41% have a bachelor's degree or higher of the population down here. A lot of households within a 30-minute drive time of Southeast Mesa. And remember I said there's 1.5 million people from downtown Mesa? Well, there's 1 million just from here. If you move the center of that radius down here, that's a really powerful story. The reason we're seeing a lot of new industrial development and new employers coming here, that last number, 1 million, the workforce within 30 minutes is a huge selling point for them. Okay, there's these next couple of maps are really, really busy. I'm not possibly going to be able to cover everything here, but I want you to just kind of get a sense about activity and good things that are happening here. In our opinion, these are good things that are happening. And so this tech corridor in yellow, that's the Elliott Tech Corridor. I talked already about the data center bit with some of these recognizable characters, and if you've driven down Elliott, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That will be under construction for quite a while. So the data centers are here, they're entitled, they're permitted, they're here. That doesn't mean we're going to keep recruiting more data centers. This is kind of like water under the bridge kind of thing. But they're there, and they're fairly concentrated on that Elliott Tech Corridor. So what I will do is I'll just kind of highlight a few other things that are not data centers. They are high job generators. So data centers, just to give you kind of a compare apples to oranges here. A typical data center provides really good high-paying jobs. Just not very many of them for as much land as they consume or for as much building that they consume. It's a needful part of infrastructure, like I said before, but when we measure it on job creating, they don't score so great. It's just kind of like, well, we like those six-figure jobs. There's just not enough of them. So what I want to highlight real quickly here for you all is some companies who have located in this same corridor who are not data centers. I don't think that story gets out enough, frankly, in Mesa. And so I hope each of you can carry that story after our discussion tonight to say, no, it's more than just the data centers. There's a lot of land that we're utilizing as a city that we're really excited about, that are the higher employment types of companies. So one of those is Apex Power. That's a solar and storage company. It's 200,000 square feet and 300 jobs, and they're going to grow to 700 jobs over the next 4 years. We have IS Clinical. That's a skincare line that's coming in to town from California. There's 95,000 square feet and 250 jobs. So I don't expect you to remember this ratio, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. A typical industrial building is going to have 1 to 3 employees for every 1,000 square feet that it has, as contrasted to a data center, which is only going to have about 1 job per acre. So it's orders of magnitude different. And that's why we care about sort of these other types of companies, because of that high ratio of the jobs they're creating. Okay, I got a couple more here. Okay, a couple more here. Niagara Water's doing an expansion, 30 new jobs, 140,000 square feet. Turafab is a manufacturing modular system that's 300 jobs, 200,000 square feet. And then inside the loop, the 202 loop, we've got another 3 or 4 along that same line. So I don't want to bore you to go into all of them, but I just want you to remember that's something that we value. That's something that we've had a lot of success. We'll continue to drive that type of success. We'll let the data centers do their thing, and they'll finish developing out over the next few years. You can, every time you use your smartphone, you can thank the data center. But, and I know, there's mixed reviews on it. I know that. I don't want to get in quibble about it. But it's just an important piece of infrastructure like roads or like fiber and water and sewer and that. It's just part of infrastructure of the modern life that we're living in. Okay, so now we're shifting. This map's just as busy. And this is now the airport. So we've kind of shifted south and more of the same. Not very many data centers down here, though. This is all heavy with that industrial type of development that has high wage and high concentration of employees for each of these buildings. You will maybe recognize some of these companies out here that are growing and expanding. Komatsu is a heavy equipment manufacturer. You've probably seen those on tractors and backhoes and stuff on construction sites, and they're making those there. You've got Fujifilm's doing an expansion out here. We have a new company called Hadrian that's in the aerospace industry. They're going to come into the cubes, about 300 jobs, 270,000 square feet. JX Advanced Metals is another company that's just located here in the last couple of years. Cyclic Materials over there on that 71 acre site. And this is going to keep happening. And the reason I can say that with confidence is because of the pipeline of projects that we get to work on. We're not going to land all of those projects, but even if we land the same percentage that we have landed for the last couple of years, it bodes really well for Mesa to get some of these really good jobs over here in the shadows of the airport. Magna, how many of you know what Magna does? How many of you have heard of Waymo? Magna makes Waymos, those Jaguar cars, that you see all over in Tempe and Phoenix. That's right here in Mesa. So we're on the front edge of some of these really cool autonomous vehicle technologies, and we get the pleasure of having Magna here in Mesa. And that's another fun story we can start to let people know. Yes, we're in some of these advanced technology industries, and we're proud of that. And that's something Mesa can then become known for, those kinds of things. And then actually the vice mayor and I were both at a celebratory event earlier today for a company called Zenergy. See that rainbow kind of colored X up there on the other side? You see Gulfstream. They just landed here in the last couple of years. So did you like that pun? You like that? I got more where that came from. I get to go on the airport board meetings, and I can go all day on these airport, fun. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, we take off, Some of my comments get grounded, but, that's part of the problem. So, we were just at the Zenergy. They're going to bring in like 1,400 jobs. They make cooling systems. and they service a lot of different industries. They do service the data center industry nationwide, but then they're creating all these really high-wage jobs so the data centers, going back to that one last time, they themselves may not be generating the jobs, but the whole supply chain and ecosystem around that. Same thing with the semiconductor industry. TSMC up in North Phoenix, you got Intel out in Chandler and Tempe, you've got the new battery plant happening out here, LG. Mesa is perfectly positioned to take advantage of the supply chains for those so these juggernaut big projects come in, and then we get to pluck fruit off of that big tree because the supply chain is something that Mesa's uniquely qualified to do. We got the labor pool for it. We got the commute distances. It's just about right for these. Okay. All right. Who wants to talk about some retail? Woo! Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about some retail projects. So on this map, you can see in purple, see that where it says retail written kind of vertically over there? That's a project, and some of these might be old hat for some of you if you're keeping track of what's going on with some of these new retail developments that are coming out here. But this is this my water, by the way? Yes. Thank you. I might pause to take a little drink in a sec. So this is it's on the east side of Elliott Road Tech Corridor, and this is a project where Cambria, the hotel chain, Cambria does a really nice product. They're going to be doing a groundbreaking ceremony in about 3 or 4 weeks out there. That's kind of the de facto anchor for that retail center, and then there's a lot of other retail restaurant that are going to be coming out there. And
where's that at? On Howard?
that is it's at the corner of Ellsworth and Elliott. The northeast corner of Ellsworth and Elliott. That's where Cambria is coming in, and that'll be kind of the anchor to kick off that development. And then there's a lot of other retailers
So
around.
are you
it.
saying the Cambria Hotel is
Yeah,
going to be there?
yeah, Cambria Hotel. Yep,
So far,
so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
we're gonna move the orange sofa over there.
What? Come on, this is a pretty cool venue. I like this place. Oh, this is great.
It's taking a while.
Okay, so here it is. Yeah, this is it. So this is not a great rendering, kind of a 3D angled look, but you can see the Cambria sitting up there, the 4 or 5 story building back there. And then you can see kind of the retail that's going to run around there. You may recognize some of those names. You got Starbucks and Einstein's and Port of Subs. They're all committed to come into that.
Is that another Starbucks?
That's like asking if there's another Dutch Bros somewhere coming up down the street. That's like the same thing. Yeah, it's another Starbucks. Yeah, it's another Dutch Bros. Yes, the answer is yes, always. And if it's within a half a mile, the answer is still yes. Yeah.
That should be Steadfast coffee instead of Starbucks.
Actually, I'd like to have that at Eastmark.
Yeah.
We'll look at more localized stuff.
Yeah, when we'll get into East Market too. So here we go. I just wanted to jump back to the Elliott Tech Corridor. This is inside the loop. You can see the Amazon warehouse distribution facility. You see that from the freeway. Google is under construction right now. You see the Google logo there. Well, between those 2 points, you can kind of see it in the yellow line, is a residential subdivision. Maybe you have friends that are buying houses and living over there, and that's Haas Crossing. And that's about 2,000 units. So that translates into about 6,000 people that are going to be living in there. And a lot of people already do live there. If you've driven through there recently, you can see there's some multifamily, some single family, some nice stuff that's getting built over there. And so that's, again, it's kind of that balance, that blend between some of the housing that's coming in as well as some of the jobs that are nearby. Yes?
I see there's a small block of state land on there. Does that mean it's protected and cannot be developed?
No.
Okay.
It just means the state owns it.
Okay.
The state has the prerogative to do with it whatever the state wants to do with it. Sometimes the state will put these properties up and they'll do like a bid or an auction for them. I don't know the history of all the state-owned properties on why they still had these vestiges of these old sites, but no, it doesn't mean it's protected. It's not like a forever open space. There's nothing like that. And they very well could sell it to a private developer.
I think the new Ray Road is coming across that, isn't it?
Ray Road's a little south.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually south of the.
Ray Road's right down here.
202.
Yeah.
Miss Maureen. No.
Okay. All right. So now we're back onto some retail stuff. So anybody recognize this site plan? How many of you have been to this site plan? All right. Tell me about it. What was it like?
Great potential.
Okay.
A little empty right now, but really cool.
Okay. They do have plans to bring a couple of hotels. They want to do in a loft hotel. They're also another boutique hotel, maybe up along Warner. They're looking at. There's some, nice bevy of restaurants and stuff in there. They are very successful. We're talking about Cannon Beach for those of you who aren't picking up on that. The Revel Surf Park. It's attracting some pretty cool like surfer style tournaments that are coming to the Sonoran Desert. We have this little funny little tchotchke we give away called Surf Mesa. That we can give away just as a memorable kind of thing. We're at a trade show or something because the wave technology is pretty cool. How many of you remember the old Big Surf day? So this is kind of like the new Big Surf, except the technology is way better. And the waves and the technology of making the waves and the cross and making it simulate these big Pacific Ocean waves, really cool. And it's right here, right on Power Road, and it's right here in Mesa. So thanks for your feedback on that. And I'm meeting with those guys in a couple of weeks.
Really cool. And the frontage stuff, the restaurants are great. I've done a number of those. Those were really cool. Just want to see it,
Continue to
build and grow and not.
Okay, I'll share that with the folks when I'm visiting with them in a couple of weeks. That's good.
We have an event, I think, this weekend too.
That's right.
And I believe it's the major entertainment section. I think it's related to opening some of that.
Down here.
Yeah, so I believe it's trampolines, go-karts, all sorts of things you can bring your kid to.
Kids that rip.
Unless I want to go to that hospital.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting event. And then those 4 major restaurant pads are under construction. They have passed by.
Out on the
That's going to be nice.
on the frontage.
I
Yes.
had the same take as Matt when I went over there. Great concept, what Rebel Surf has done, is amazing. Once that KTR and that restaurant row they were talking about, it feels like once that opens up, that'll really make it an attractive place for people to go to.
I would extend it to say once those hotels open up, because then you're going to have the foot traffic of people staying there, and that's what you need for these entertainment centers to really succeed, is that people are, they're flying in hopefully to Gateway Airport, staying here at the hotel, and utilizing all the facilities that are there before they take off. That's what's, I think, we're trying to push those hotels as quickly as possible, and their brand, they want to upscale, so that's really nice to hear.
Yeah. No, that's great comments. And I think there's who's been on the surfboard? Vice Mayor? What?
It's fortunately there's no video.
Okay. All right. Not that you know about. Not that's been revealed yet. So anyways, this is what I was talking about before. Like the retail, it's more than just retail. It's the hotels, and we do see a lot of applicants coming in hotels. In the hotel business, it seems the sweet spot and the right risk profile is a hotel in that 100 to 120 doors or keys they call it, So unfortunately, it doesn't come by our orbit very often that you have the big mega. I'll talk about one that is a big mega that's coming in the next few years. But that seems to be the typical hotel profile, is about 100 to 120 rooms. And so we're trying to amalgamate as many of those where it makes sense for each of the developers that want to build those. Because ultimately, we need to have the hotel rooms. Yes?
So to tie to another Orange Sofa that was hosted, we went down to Arizona Athletic Grounds, and they talked about, first of all, what they're doing down there is really cool. The new person in charge seems really she's engaging. Talked about missing out on some opportunities due to a lack of 4-star hotels within 20 minutes of Arizona Athletic Grounds. Any chance any of those hotels are going to be 4-star?
Interesting question.
Yes, there is a chance. I just ran into Meg.
Always a chance.
Meg was at this energy thing that we were at earlier today, and she mentioned the same thing. Just reiterated that because there's talk of, again, there's a Spring Hill that's coming in across the street. Again, it's not of that caliber, but there is a project that's on the horizon, and it seems really cool and it seems real, and we love the fact that it's going to be happening right in here. And I'll get to that slide in just Just a sec. Okay, you all know about the Sprouts. You all know about the Sprouts coming in? Okay. Do you like that?
Yes.
It's a fairly small, kind of grocery anchored site. It's pretty small. It's only about 7 acres. But we're real excited about the Sprouts coming in down here. And there's going to be some national brand. They haven't really announced a lot of the tenancy here, but their lease up has been really strong. Because of the Sprouts, that draws a lot of these other national types of retailers to come in. So they're not ready to announce all of those just yet, but the fact that there's a Sprouts and the fact you'll have some other recognizable brands coming into this, into East Market, I think is really good for you folks that live down here. And hopefully you drive business and make this thing a success for these folks that are building this.
None of those are drive-through, right?
Zero. There's a bank, but
Yeah.
there's no drive-through restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
They actually signed a development agreement excluding drive-throughs, which I give a lot of credit to our staff, economic development, our legal team. We had no leverage on that, and they signed it. So I think that speaks to the level of quality that Common Bond wants to bring as well, so it speaks highly to those folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
My pleasure, actually.
How many of you have heard or aware of this entertainment venue that's coming in down by the airport? This is one of the oddest things I've seen in my career.
It's the potato barn.
It's the potato barn. It's a cool meld of the potato barn and an entertainment venue that's like 60,000 square feet. It's the same principles. It's the same ownership group, and it's in the site right next to them. So when you drive by on Ray Road and you see the potato barn, and there's 2 parcels. One of them is going to be more of another industrial type of project, but the one furthest away from the road, right up there is going to be this thing here, the Knox. And so this is our artist's rendering of what the Knox is going to look like. I've never seen anything like it, but I have a weird feeling that it's going to work. Because it's close to the airport, they're going to put a lot of money into marketing it, and they're going to drive traffic into. They have the retail stuff that they're doing down there. Anyways, the Knox is coming. I'm sure they have a website. You can look it up and find out more about it when they start getting programmed for artists and people to come into a live performance venue. It's in an interesting part of town for it to be doing that, but I think it's going to.
Yeah.
I think it's going to work.
I
Yeah.
can only imagine they said, how many students do you have right there
Right.
in this? I'm curious to see what they bring.
I know. But
Yeah.
you've got Queen Creek has some performance, nothing like this.
Yeah.
We draw from all around with that.
Yeah, there's a bit of a gap, kind of a.
And celebrity theater, Van Buren kind of vibe.
Okay, this next one's another retail project. This is Gallery Park. You've probably already dined over here. You see under construction a new dual-branded Homewood and Tempo, Homewood Suites and Tempo. The hotel that's under it's a dual brand. Have you ever seen that before? So it's one facility, but it's 2 different brands. And it's kind of like when like the Reese's peanut butter cup, the peanut butter and the chocolate. But it's good. They're both 2 different brands. Tempo's kind of an upscale brand, so we're excited about that one. That's coming right here. Homewood Suites here. So I think there's about 70 rooms in one and about 120 rooms in the other. Yes, it's 97 that will be Homewood, and then 77 are going to be the Homewood, and then Hilton is going to have the 97 lifestyle rooms under the Tempo flag. And then you're familiar with all the retail that's already out there, so I'll skip to the next slide on this. We're almost to the end, folks. Bear with me. This is... Again, the airport, I'll just talk real quickly here. ASU has their Poly campus. They've been out here. They're about to celebrate a 30-year anniversary. Can you believe it? It was in 1996 that they first put a flag in the ground out here at Gateway. And so next year, they're deciding how they want to celebrate the 30-year anniversary. And right now, the city is in discussions with ASU to do an IGA, intergovernmental agreement with ASU, where they can program more of the space to the south, where it says ASU Innovation Zone. It's 400 acres down there. And so the city's proud to partner with ASU because they're interested in continuing to grow that whole ASU empire. And we love the Polytech campus because I'm going to be going to an event tomorrow morning. It's a ribbon cutting for their new building. It's essentially building 12, and it's the building that teaches these students all about semiconductors, and there's live lab space in there that simulates the real working environment. So the industry partners ASU has love the fact that there's going to be that building opening up tomorrow. And then the students coming out of that program are going to be work ready, and they can jump right into some of these high-tech industries. This is a rendering of that. Actually, I think this is a photograph because they're doing the I've been inside the foyer of this building, but I'm going to be able to do the grand tour tomorrow. Okay. I think I'm going to skip these last couple of slides, but suffice to say, more of what I was talking about up on the Elliott Tech corridor, there's a lot more of that happening out here. This is south of the airport now. This is Queen Creek down here. And you can see all of this stuff in orange are industrial developments that are coming in. The thing that's unique about this part of Mesa is the railroad line, the UP line that runs diagonally right there, Rittenhouse Road. There are plans to take that rail spur. You see the blue line that comes off of the rail spur, this light blue up here? It doesn't exist today, but you follow that blue line and it goes for about 6 miles. Well, that's really good news for people that are in heavy industrial uses, because then they can get all these semis off the road. They can put the stuff, bringing it in and taking it out via rail, which is it's a big plus. It's a win for everybody. That got delayed a little bit. They found some Native American artifacts during the first environmental review, so they had to work through kind of processing all of that. Now it's back on track, though. So we're hoping within the next year. Are you guys loving these puns? Come on. It's okay. All right, let's wrap it up. Is there anything else you're interested in learning about?
You went past the Signal Butte one, like up where they're talking about the Target and stuff. Do you have anything on that?
Oh, yeah.
North of the 60?
Yeah. Okay, that's Hadrian. Let's see.
No, it's not our
We were
district.
just there. It's right there. It's right here.
I can take that as an answer.
Yeah, so Signal Butte. Okay, so this is the Walmart. This is the auto mall. It's been planned for an auto mall down off Highway 24 down there.
There were rumors of a Sam's Club.
And so, yeah, we'll keep those as rumors for now. But yeah, we hope. We're continuing. Let me just say this. We continue to get serious interest from these different retailers to come in, and they want to find the right pockets to be in. And some of the retailers are a little bit sensitive about, timing and announcing and stuff like that. We always respect that process. And so, but Walmart, that is a public deal. That's going to be coming in that's the Highway 24 to the bottom here. You can see Signal Butte there, the north-south. So on that northeast corner, there'll be a Walmart anchored.
Encourage the Sam's Club anywhere but athletic grounds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now here we go. This is the, let's go to this one. Okay, here's the athletic grounds. So this is what we were talking about. Meg Stevens, she's been out there for a year or so as the new director. And I don't really need to talk about the AAG, do I? You're all familiar with it. It's cool. I know it went through some rough past, the bankruptcy and the fraud and all that stuff. We get that. But the asset itself, the fields themselves, the courts themselves, all of that, it's world class. It's really, really great. And the fact that now the dust is settled, there's new ownership group that come in, kind of reset the pricing. They're still attracting tournaments from all over the country, and it has potential to attract tournaments from all over the world. Once we get the hotels, to your point earlier, we will be able to successfully attract stuff from around the world, because that's a minimum requirement for a lot of these groups that want to come in. But all the activity this thing generates, it's like 2.2 million visitors per year, including the athletes and their families, that come in to do these sports tournaments. And we're really fortunate that we have this here in Mesa. So this is another retail center that is planned near the AAG, just to the north of it. And we don't have much more detail other than that. There's a couple of hotels planned for this shopping center, but it is in that little pocket. You can see the parking that shows where it says existing, not a part. That's the northeastern corner of the parking field for the AAG. Okay, well, I'm going to finish with this slide. This is a rendering, and if you've been reading the newspapers about it, Legacy Park is it's 270 acres of really high-end. They're working with a development group that does hotels that are of the highest quality. I'm talking about Ritz-Carlton, JW Marriott. It's called the Athens Group. So this is a group, there's a developer, very reputable developer called Vestar. They're working with the underlying landowner of what I'm talking about is right up in the corner. See that purple that says Legacy Park, right on Ellsworth, Williams Field, and the 24? There's 270 acres in there. High-end retail, high-end hotel, high-end office. We thought the office market was dead from COVID, right? Well, the office market is slowly starting to come back. In fact, the last quarter nationally was the first positive net absorption for office space we've had since 2021. Now, some markets are performing better than others. Others are still in the tank, just to be clear. But that hasn't happened in 4 years nationwide. So there just might be some light at the end of this tunnel as it pertains to office. And so we're excited that this group is talking about doing this high-quality development down here in this part of Mesa. It makes a ton of sense. All the demographics are lining up. The hotels, the other retail stuff is lining up really well. With that, I'm going to close. And here's my contact information. If any of you wanted to get a hold of me and ask other questions that we didn't have time for tonight, I'd love the questions or the emails. Just send it over there. You can see some of our social media stuff. I'm also on LinkedIn personally, but our office is there at LinkedIn, so you can find me or our office and follow us, and then you'll kind of get updates if you're on LinkedIn at all. And then of course Facebook and Better Life Mesa on Instagram. Okay.